What is going on? This is Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're checking into Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast where we help you tap into your full potential. And this week, finally, and when I say finally, I mean like finally, one of my homies been waiting for this episode for the longest, but we finally made it happen. Schedules worked out. Somebody that I look to where, whenever things going on, I know I can reach out to him. I can always count on him to, be a brother, be a friend, somebody that's going to keep it real and not sugarcoat stuff. We need those people in our life that's going to keep it real with us. Because I know me, I'm an asshole. I can be, stubborn a lot of times, and just having people in your corner in your life that will. Be like, they'll call you out on shit, but they'll also, be there to help lift you up. So, my dog's here. So without further ado, bring to the stage Mr. Brett Campbell. Brett, what is going on, big dog?
What's going on, Jesse? Appreciate you having me on. It's like you said, it's been way too long, but we finally made it work.
Yeah, like it's been long. Like I had the missus on here, right? And I'm like, okay, can't have the missus on and we don't get to lock in and do our thing. But
Right.
we're here and we're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to say, and you know, Kaleo, he's a part of our 3D group, and I had him on. And I said the same thing to him and saying it to you that the way I look at people and I'll just say when people open up their home to you, for me, that is something that I don't take lightly. And that's something big for me. Like, recently I got to come down there and, stay the night with you all. And I'm one of those people that if somebody opens up their safe space, their castle, their place where they reside, Connor's there, the dog there, like when somebody do that, that means that there's a trust, that means there's a bond between people. So that's how when I say like this is my dog, this is somebody I rock with, it's because you opened up your home to me, and that's something I don't take lightly, and that's big. So I appreciate that, and that just goes to show that you know we're locked in.
Absolutely, dude. And we appreciate you actually staying with us and coming down and spending some time meeting the little guy and chilling with the dog too. I mean, that's something Katie and I have worked really hard to create is a space where we're comfortable bringing in the people we care about whenever they need, or if they're visiting us in Nashville or coming into Nashville for an event. Our doors are always open because we want to create the space that people feel comfortable and know that we're reliable to just hang out, pop in, do whatever they need to do.
Yeah, and again, for me, that's something big because that's that safe space. So if somebody is willing to let you into their safe space, then you know that's a lot of I don't want to say a lot of responsibility, but there's some things like okay, I have to make sure that I'm showing up as the best version of myself. I am, doing what I'm supposed to do, so they can know like, hey, that wasn't a bad idea of letting somebody, be a part of their space.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of vulnerability in that too for the people that are opening their home, right? Because you're going to see the chaos, you're going to see the mess, you're going to see behind the scenes of whatever is portrayed outward. Living with a 4-year-old and a dog that is 3 times the size of that 4-year-old, it can get extremely chaotic, and the house is not always clean. Anybody with small kids or dogs know that I don't know what I'm walking into when I get home and he's been home all day, or if I have him and Katie's been at the office, she doesn't know what she's walking into because you never know. So there's a vulnerability letting people into the home, especially stay there, see our routines because they may not be the best routines in the world, but they work for us.
Yeah, and that's a key thing that I want to home in on real quick, and then we can really get into it. Is that showing that vulnerability because too often that you have people that want everything to seem like it's perfect, that want to say like everything is like their life is amazing and there's no chaos, and it's like no, it's that vulnerability. Like you said, we have a child and a dog. Like we're working. Like it is constant chaos. There's no maid or housekeeper coming in. Like you know, we have to do those things. So that is something that's big of like just that authenticity of you know. we are regular people like anybody else. We have to chase kids around. We have to make sure the dog's okay, and that is just our life. So I think that's a big thing for you all that's listening. Is like be okay with that vulnerability because everything isn't perfect, and for people that may walk around like they're perfect and everything is amazing, it's just BS, right?
Oh, 100%. If anybody tells you that their life is perfect in the sense that it's textbook perfection, that they're completely bullshitting you. Their life might be perfect to them and fit what they want in their life. Awesome. Love that. There's a level of chaos that comes with that perfection that everybody has involved. There's anything you see online, that's all curated.
Yeah, yeah. Especially again when you have kids, like kids are a unfiltered. It's the whole Forrest Gump thing. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. That's
Mm-hmm.
kids. Like you're gonna have some days where they're gonna be the perfect child, and then 10 seconds later, they're just all hell breaks loose. So
Oh, yeah.
it's never nothing's ever perfect. So it's like, hey, there's books, but I'm not one person that really believe in that. But some people do, where like there's books about it, but there's no really real manual about being a parent. Like
No,
there's
every
there's
kid is different.
ideas.
Every kid has different needs. Every kid develops in different ways. Every kid has their own special gifts or talents or shortcomings that they need to struggle through. There, you don't get a manual when you leave the
Yeah,
hospital. The only thing that you're told is make sure that they eat, sleep, and their diapers changed, right?
yeah.
Everything else you got to figure out on your own.
And that's the crazy thing about it, that a lot of people, like they're becoming parents. Like I tell them, like kids are going to be kids. You can't. You want to make sure their safety, and like you said, they eat, they sleep, their diapers clean, they're safe, and there's no manual for you to do this. Like you have to let kids be a kids. You have to let them express themselves, as long as they're not hurting themselves or anybody else. They have to be able to learn and be curious, because kids are curious anyway. Let
Hmm.
them, explore their curiosity, as long as they're doing it in a safe way. And just it is what it is.
Yeah. Kids don't learn by you telling them what to do. Kids learn by interacting with their environment.
Yep. Yep. It's so funny because I know with both my daughters, but more so with Madison, my youngest one, like I'll get mad about something. I'm like, I was a little bit worse than that. Like she did that, but when I was her age, I did something 10 times worse. So I am going to let her know, hey, that's wrong, but I am not gonna just go ballistic on her because of that. Like, no, I've done worse, and hey, this is the reason why we don't do that, or this is the consequences if you do that.
Well, and speaking of consequences, I mean, Connor's at the age where he's overly curious and wants to get into everything, try all the crazy gymnastics and
Yeah.
daredevil tactics at home. And I know that when he's about to balance beam on the back of the couch, if he loses his footing and he might crack his head open on the hardwood. And
Yeah.
yet I don't always stop him from doing that. I talk to him and I'm like, is that a wise decision? This is what happens if you lose your footing. Do you still want to do this? And sometimes I don't want him to get hurt, obviously,
Yeah.
but sometimes he's got to learn from his own actions what some of those consequences are. I'm always going to be there to help catch him if he falls, but I can't drill into him, don't do this or be careful, because that's going to curb his curiosity, curb his ability to explore his surroundings and learn from his own mistakes.
And that goes back to, so I had Trad, another one of our homies. I had Trad on, and he was saying how that situation where his father was like, "Hey, I'm not going to tell you you can't drink in that, but what I'm going to tell you is if you find yourself drinking and you decide to drive and something happens, I'm telling you what can go wrong, but you're gonna make your own decisions. Yet, if something happened, call me. I'll be there." So it's like you
Mhm.
letting them know, like, hey, if you do this, there's always a consequence or reaction that comes with whatever you decide to do, these are the options. If it does happen, this could be the outcome.
Hmm.
And then,
Well,
just be there.
yeah, I feel like, yeah, I mean, you bringing up Trad's conversation, I feel like all of us had some sort of conversation like that, whether
Yeah.
it was from a parent or a parental figure growing up. I remember when I was 16 and I had just gotten my license, and my grandparents on my 16th birthday, and they did this for all of us on our 16th birthday. We didn't all know, but we didn't tell the younger ones coming up that they were going to have this conversation. Our grandparents just had it with them. They gave each of us $100, and they're like, hey, you're 16, you've got a car now. We know you're going to go out with friends. We know you're going to do things. And high school parties are a real thing. And if you get into a position where you should not be driving home, call us. But also, this money is if you need to. We didn't have Uber back then, but if you
Yeah.
need to call a taxi or you need to take a bus or you need to get home, this is how you do it. And you can't get us.
Yeah. And it was so true with that when we had that parent or, parental figure tell us things. And I always looked at it like, damn it, you jinx me. And it was with my mother where, hey, I don't think you should do that. Hey, don't do this. And I do it anyway. And damn it, every time we have a conversation around that, something always happens. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
one hand, I'm like, you jinx me. Then the other hand was like, hey, you know what? She know exactly what she's talking about. Like there was a reason why she said, "Hey, I don't think you should do that, or you shouldn't do that," because the outcome could be this, and then the outcome is always that.
Yeah. Well, and this line of conversation actually takes me back to our the starting point. Like, there's no manual to being a parent,
Yeah,
and like, yes, there's no written out manual and directions, but we all have a benchmark to decide what kind of parent we want to be based on the parental figures that we had growing up,
yeah,
and whether they were good. I don't want to say good parents or bad parents. I want to say whether it was strategies that they used that you liked or didn't like. That's still a benchmark. Like, hey, I experienced this as a kid, and I think that's awesome, and I want to make sure my kids experience the same thing. On the flip
yeah.
side of that, there's also, I didn't like this growing up. I didn't like that my parents did this, and I thought they could have done it a better way. So I'm not going to do the same things that my parents did, and I'm going to change that generational upbringing and use it as a benchmark of what not to do.
And to that point, it comes back to that whole thing. Like there's a learning lesson in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two ways to look at things in every situation. So on the one hand, like you said, hey, I like, the way this was. So I want to mirror that, sort of say when I become a parent, or hey, I didn't like the way, you know, this situation happened. So I don't want to be that way when I'm a parent. So it's just those learning lessons and us having to look back at those situations like, hey, these situations happen good or bad, and what have I learned from that? And what can I take from that when I'm a parent and I'm doing those
Mm-hmm.
things, right?
Yeah, well, and I'll add to that too. Like, there are things that my parents, my grandparents, the other figures in my life that I learned lessons from growing up that I didn't understand why they were telling me one way or another to do something or the lesson they were trying to teach until I became a parent. I'm like, I didn't like it at the time when I was younger, but now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh shit, I get what you were trying to say back then. And because I'm trying to do the same thing and I'm still hitting the same wall that you hit with me, with them not understanding. So like, I get it. I get the struggle.
Yeah, it's so funny because my oldest, Kiela, she said that before. Where she was like, she told to my mother, her grandma, like, now I get exactly what you were saying. I get why. Now I see why, and that's why I always tell people like you're gonna go through those cycles with your kids where when they're young, they want to be around you, they want to do all the things. As they're starting to get older, they start, feeling themselves and thinking like we don't know. Like, oh, it's so funny because I used to think this. I never said it, but I thought this was like, hey, you don't know what's going on out here. You're older, you don't know that, and it's like the game doesn't change, just the players. Like
Mm-hmm.
things don't change. So just seeing that cycle of kids wanting to always be around us, and then they start getting a little older, starting to have friends and want to do their own thing, and then they get to that age where it's like full circle moment of like, hey, when we going out? Hey, we should hang out. And they want to be around. And they listen to the things you said. They may not say it, but they listen to it. And they start having that self realization like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
what you were saying. And you were right.
Yeah. Every parent goes through that. And I haven't reached it yet, but I'm sure every parent goes through it. You can attest to this. There's always a phase where you're no longer cool anymore until you are again.
Yep. Yep. You are no longer cool until you are. It's the constant cycle of, oh, you don't know, times are different, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, they start saying, like, oh, now I see what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get it. Right. And while we're talking about that, so how has, you have Connor, how did that change your perspective on things? Like from going from, not having any kids and now, you have Connor. What was that shift like for you?
So it was probably different than most parents in the world that we live in. Like everybody's situation is different, right? But I feel like the majority of people that are having kids usually have them planned. They're in a long-term relationship. They know they want kids at that time. They're trying to have kids. And mine and Katie's story is very different. We didn't know each other for that long before we found out we were having Connor. We had only known each other for a couple of months. We weren't officially in a relationship. We were getting to know each other. We were in that early phases. So it changed a lot of things for us, for me personally too, because I went from being 28 years old and single, 29, yeah, 29, 28, yeah, 28 and single and having no responsibilities to, okay, now I have a child on the way with someone who is amazing, but we aren't in a long-term relationship. We aren't married. We haven't established what our future looks like together. And we had a conversation of like, okay, if we don't work out, we're still going to both be amazing parents to Connor. But it really made me shift my perspective of it's not just about me anymore. I can't be as selfish as I had been. And I don't know that I necessarily believe myself to have been selfish, but when you don't have the responsibility of taking care of another life or providing for a family, you are in a lot of ways selfish. There's only you
Yeah.
have to take care of. There's only you that you need to provide for. You got to make sure your bills are taken care of. You can do whatever you want whenever you want. That all changes when you have a kid. And
Yeah.
it really shift my um, belief systems and my perspective, and especially my big why, because I didn't really have one other than to be financially independent,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad big why, right? Like that's all well and fine, but it wasn't a big driver for me. I didn't, other than student loans, I didn't have a lot of large bills that I had to take care of. There weren't a huge amount of responsibilities that I had to take care of. So financial independence didn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
Now it's completely changed how I approach business, how I approach our personal life and my time, because it's not just my time anymore. It's our time. It's our family. And it's changed my big why to be really just one word. And that word is choice.
I
And
like
the difference or the background behind that is I always want to have a choice in everything that I'm presented with. I don't want to be put in a situation where I'm forced to say no to something or forced to say yes to something. I want to do it because I choose to do it. I don't want to say no to Connor if he wants to have this amazing experience. I don't want to say no to Katie if she wants to go do something or have fun with something or go on a trip or buy something that is for her or for us. I always want to have that choice. And that's been the driver for me for the last couple of years.
So so there's two things I want to go back to that I think is very important for people to realize is, so for you all who's becoming a parent, or that's a goal for you all, like that was the big thing of, you have to have that realization, like you are selfish when it's just you.
Mhm.
Like you are selfish where if you're at home and 2 in the morning come and you decide you want to go to 24-hour Denny's or IHOP. Like you can just get up and just go.
Yeah.
Right?
Or
You
you
have a
want to go
friend.
out and spend time at the bar till 3 a.m. And sleep till noon the next day. You're good.
Yeah. Or you do want to purchase, make that purchase, and it's like, okay, you don't have to think about like, okay, do I have to do this, do that. So there is a level of selfishness there that when you become a parent, that like you said, you're no longer living for yourself. And it was a quote. It's not a quote, but it's a saying that people would say is, we will always say, "I'll die for my kids. I'll die for my kids." But somebody said something that was so hit so hard. Like, you were saying you would die for it, but why don't you live for them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, why don't you live for them? So that it makes you have that mindset shift of, like you said, of, okay, it's not just me anymore. Like the 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 decisions I make has repercussions and consequences, not just for me anymore, but for other people involved too.
100%. And for anybody getting ready to become a parent or early stages of being a parent, or you want to be a parent in the future, do not take me saying that as every decision is only ever for your family.
Yeah,
A
that's true.
large portion of them are, and every decision you make will impact your family in some way, good or bad. But don't lose yourself in becoming a parent, or don't lose yourself in becoming a spouse either. Like,
Yeah.
I need time for myself to work on my hobbies, my personal development, the things that I'm interested in. Just like Katie needs time to work on her hobbies, her interests, on who she is. Because just because we become parents or we become spouses doesn't mean we lose our individuality either. It's a really tough balance to find, and it's important not to become a meld of your whole identity as parent or husband or whatever.
No, I'm glad you clarified that, because there would have been some people that listened to this and then they would have just took that as, oh, I just have to give myself up and I just have to stop that. And I'm glad you shared that, because that's not exactly what that we're not saying that.
Mhm.
In actuality, you need to make sure you're pouring into yourself. You make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're the best version of yourself, so you can be a better parent and spouse. So there's that level of, how are you showing up for yourself? What are the things you're doing for yourself to make sure you're operating at full capacity, so you can be the best parent and spouse. So I'm glad you highlighted that, because people would have heard that and just been like, "Oh no, they telling me that I just can't be me. I have to just stop." No, what we're saying is, y- your decisions does not only affect you anymore; it affects others. So there's some things that you can't do, like stay at the bar or club until 4 or 5 in the morning, because you have these things to take care of.
100%. And I'll say this too, and it'll lead into like some of why it took me so long to come on the podcast. Right? There was a time. I have not been a perfect father. I have not been a perfect husband. If anybody says they are the perfect parent or a perfect spouse, like we said earlier, that's all curated. There's no such thing. We all make mistakes. We all have our shortcomings. Right? There was about a year to a year and a half of time where I was in a slump. I was in a slump professionally. I was in a slump personally. And it was after Connor was born, and Katie and I had been married, and it would impact home life. And it took me a while to come out of that. And it took a really good friend of ours to kind of help drag me out of that, Kyle Evans. And Kyle's someone I've known for a long time. And he knew that I wasn't ready to hear it for a long time. And when I was finally ready to hear it, he beat the crap out of me
Yeah,
mentally and
yeah,
not physically. He didn't abuse me, but
yeah,
like he read me the proverbial riot act, right? He told me to get my shit together. And it was something that Katie tried to help for the longest time, but couldn't, just because she might have been too close to the situation or whatever.
yeah.
But it took a lot for me to turn around from that and pour a lot into myself to level up and be better so that I showed up better at home. Thankfully, we're out on the other side of that, and home life is better than it's ever been, and Connor's doing better than it's ever been. So that's just me telling you, learn from my mistakes And you don't have to make all the mistakes to learn from them. You can learn from others' mistakes as well.
Yeah, all right. So let's dive because there's two parts of that, and I hope I don't forget the second part of going into that. Well, I'll go there first so I don't forget that. So with having going through that phase, was there like what were some of the action items or how were you able to get through that? Because I know like you've coached people, you still coach people, like you are, you've been in leadership, you are a big figure in helping others. What were some of the things that you did for yourself to say, okay, you had that, as the old folks say, you had that checkup from the neck up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, we know when we're in things and we have to make that transition. What were those things for you to do that, that you had did that transition to get to the other side?
Yeah. Well, first things first is you need to be willing to be coachable. You need to be willing to hear what other people are telling you. Because I found out after I acknowledged what was wrong and I knew there was a deficiency or something was wrong, uh, then I was able to look back and say, oh, this person, and this person were all trying to tell me for the last year that I wasn't acting like myself and I didn't want to hear it. So that's the first step. You have to be able to acknowledge that there is something affecting you, whether it's depression or external factors, internal factors, whatever it might be. You have to be willing to acknowledge that, right? And then you have to evaluate, okay, what have I been doing that's led me to where I am now? And what do I need to change? For me, I needed to get back to reading. I needed to get back to self development. I had hit a wall and I had plateaued, and I let that plateau send me backwards on a decline. So I got back into personal and professional development. I started reading again. I read The Mountain Is You, which is, if you haven't read it yet, phenomenal book, Brianna Wiest. Here's the deal with that book. You're not going to like what it says about you if you were in any headspace that I was in. And if you are not ready to acknowledge that you're in one of those headspaces, that book won't land. You won't understand it. It won't have as much of an impact because you're not ready to hear it. But that book really helped get me on the other side because I was like, oh, yeah, I am the reason that I'm in this position. I am the reason that I have to rescale this mountain because it's my own internal messaging. It's how I'm talking to myself. Everything I'm dealing with, I created in my own head.
Yeah, yeah. And to that point, just to touch on that is, I've said this before on the podcast many a times, and I say it when I'm teaching, and I got it from Jocko, where it was like one of the hardest things to do is to admit that you're in the position you're in because of you and nobody else. But yet it's so liberating because you are it nobody else can control you getting out of that situation. Like you have it all to yourself. Like you don't have to depend on anybody else. It's all on you. So yeah,
Yep.
I just want to put that part in there. Yeah.
There's like a visual analogy that I kind of related with whenever I realized I was in this pit or in this slump, right? And the visualization I did was I had a shovel and I was standing on the ground and I was just digging myself deeper into a hole. I was just digging for no reason but to dig. And I put myself in that hole. Nobody was around to drop a ladder or a rope for me to get out. And all I had was the shovel. So the best thing for me to do was to chip away at the sides and build stairs to get myself out. And all of that was from personal development, reflection. I started working out again, lost 65 pounds in the last year. I really did that in about 4 months, 4.5 months time, which helped my personal confidence. It helped how I felt about myself. It helped my health in general. It made it so that I could actually show up around the house with Connor, because if you haven't had a toddler, they have ridiculous amounts of energy and I could
Yeah.
not keep up with them anymore, which added to my slump. So everything that I was going through, I created myself, and it took everything that I was doing with support of others
Yeah.
to get out of it.
Yeah. I I just love that analogy of you put yourself in the hole and it's like, okay, I have to get out. Like you're gonna have support. The right people will give you support, and you have to get out of that hole yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me think of looking at it a different way. Like when I was boxing, yes, I had my corner, my coaches, but at the end of the day, it was only me and that other individual in the ring. Like, so they can give me the support, they can give me that, but until I make the decision on, I'm going to throw a jab, I'm going to throw a cross, I'm going to throw a hook, I'm going to move. It doesn't matter, what the outside people say, but having that support is amazing because it gives you that motivation or whatever. But to your point, like you said, you got yourself in the hole. You stepped in that ring. You have to do what you have to do to make sure you get out of there.
100%. And taking it back to your boxing or your jujitsu with your corner man, right? They can see angles that you can't.
Yeah.
Your blinders are on. You're looking straight forward, right? You're not necessarily looking at the full body. Your corner men are. So in between rounds, they can give you the insights like, hey, you might not be seeing this. He's dropping his arm before he
Yeah.
hits. Throw your guard up. Now you can go back into the next round with that knowledge and adjust your style.
And that's so big on why having a coach, having an accountability partner, having a mentor, having somebody that we call it that bird's eye view, that helicopter view, because
Mm-hmm.
while you're in the woods, while you're boots on the ground, you can only see what's right in front of you. But that person that can look from the top down, like, hey, like you said, hey, every time you take a step to the right, he drop his arm a little, so maybe next time you do that, you throw a cross up top. Like you said, they can point things out that you can't see, and you still have to do those things. So
Right.
it's beautiful how it come into play. Of like you said, Cal was he was there to help you through the stuff. He gave you the bird's eye view, the helicopter view of things, and you still had to do your part, right, to do the things to get you through that. So it just
Yeah,
goes hand in
absolutely.
hand.
Yeah, he gave me that recommendation to read The Mountain Is You. It was my decision to pick up the book and read it. If I hadn't done that, I'd still be there.
Yeah, that. So I have to make a confession. I listened to the first part of that and I haven't finished. So for me, I'm more of a actual book reader than a
Mm-hmm.
listener. So I feel like I need to pick that up to check that book out. But that's
Oh
totally off
yeah.
the subject. But yeah, I need to do that.
Listen, I read that book. It's real easy. I read it on a flight to family reunion in Vegas in 2023. So
Mhm.
I finished it all on the entire flight, and my notes are all in the margins. In that book, every part won't affect every person the same way. Like there are some things in there that didn't apply to me, but the ones that did, they hit like a freight train.
Yeah. So I want to ask this. Well, I want to go this direction. So we talked about where you know you were in a you were in a certain space and the things you did to get through there. Is there a different technique that you use when bullshit happened? Because we know what can go wrong will go wrong, or is it just falling back to those staying in those habits that you created when you was working through that? They're like, okay, I'm gonna stay consistent to these habits because I know BS will happen, and if
Mm-hmm.
BS does happen, I've already got the routine together to do it. Or is there different things?
So I haven't really done much differently lately, but I've been sticking with my habits. I've actually dropped out of reading as much, and I need to get back to that personally, and get back to journaling and really self reflection. Because as things have gotten better, I have dropped on some of those habits, and my focus has been pulled elsewhere. But I'm taking KW Bold right now, and journaling is part of it. So it's a nice force of making me do it again, right? And adding some more reading time in. But everything else, I've been consistent with working out. My workout may not be the same as what it was at the beginning of this year. Just because of some injuries that I'm dealing with, but I'm still doing it for 30 minutes to an hour every day. And that's my me time. That's the time that I get to do some personal self-reflection or not focus on work, not focus on family stuff. It's just me and being outdoors, right? Um, I did 75 hard in the beginning of this year, and I'm still tracking everything I eat. I'm eating more
Yeah,
than what I was when I started because I have to, but I'm still
yeah,
tracking everything every single day. And I'm learning like how things affect me. Sometimes I indulge a little bit. I'll have like an ice cream cone or a piece of cheesecake or a little too much sugar, and I feel like shit the next day. And I'm like,
Man,
this is how I always felt. And now I'm knowing how I can adjust. Do I need to just reduce the amount? Do I need to avoid it at all? So it's a daily, I don't want to say struggle, but it's a daily journey. No matter how much weight I've lost, no matter how far I've come from being in that self-proclaimed pit, it's always a daily journey to not turn backwards.
yeah. And I want to so you made me just think about something when you shared that as far as about your routine. And I've noticed even very, very recently that I noticed myself starting to go into a little mental slump. Like not
Mm-hmm.
completely there, but I noticed that I started shifting that direction. And I realized the same thing you said. Like I wasn't journaling, I wasn't reading. Like I was lifting, but I wasn't getting my outdoor run in. My outdoor run had turned into so therapeutic to me where even when we had that brutal cold, I would layer up and I would go out there and I was just so mentally relaxed. And I realized like those things are missing. So it's like you said, getting back to the basics or that routine that helps you through those times
Mm-hmm.
that if it helps you through, it can keep you through, right? It can keep you from getting there. So just realizing like, okay, I know for me, same thing. I need to start back journaling. Need to start back reading. Need to start
Mm-hmm.
back getting outside. Even if I don't jog and I'm just walking, just still getting that nature, that outside, and being able to just take deep breaths and let it out. Like that plays a big part.
100%. And I've started seeing some of that lately as well. Like I said, I've gotten away from reading. I've gotten away from journaling. I'm missing my runs because my knee. I've
Yeah.
had previous knee problems, and they're flaring up. So I'm walking, not running. And I need to get back to some of those things. And I've noticed that some of that confidence that I got back is starting to decrease a little bit because I'm not doing some of the things that I was really involved in. But also, we just moved 4 months ago. We moved from Philly to Nashville. We're starting over essentially. We're in a brand new market. We're rebuilding our business. We don't have a sphere here. So some of those old things that I was telling myself have been creeping back in, and it's been a direct effort not to allow them to impact me and the results that we're having. We're getting traction. We're growing our business, and that's awesome. And it's on me if I allow the the negative self-talk to come back in and shut me back down.
Yeah. And so I am very big on giving like action items and things for the listeners or viewers to take away. And you just said some things. So what are your go-to things, ladies and gentlemen, where if you're out of those, if you're not dealing with struggles right now, but we know what can go wrong, will go wrong. What are your contingency? I always say this. What is your contingency plans for when that happens? So
Mm-hmm.
like Brett or like I said, like I noticed myself starting to go down that path. Okay, I need to start back journaling. I need to start back reading. I need to get out there and not just lifting weights, but I need to get out there and do a jog or do a walk to get that time in nature. What are the things that you can put in place to where hell, let's not even say contingency plan. What are those things that you can create and turn into habits so you don't even have to get to the point where you need that contingency plan to
let's
where
t-
you're there.
let's set them up as a preemptive, right?
Yeah,
Like, everybody has peaks and valleys in their life, and whether you're at a peak or a valley right now, you need to have habits that are going to keep you steady. So you might not be having any struggles or internal or external struggles right now, but let's set up some great habits, no matter what they are. It could be running, it could be biking, it could be going for a walk, it could be going to the gym if you aren't already. It could be reading 30 minutes a day or journaling. Hell, it could be sitting for silence for 30 minutes a day. Um, so that you get accustomed to it, find what works for you, so that if and when you do need something like that, you're not starting from scratch. Because Jesse, I feel like you and I both know starting
Yeah,
from scratch when you're at your lowest is very hard. And if
it
I
is.
had good habits before going into a slump, I would have gotten out of it a lot faster.
You said something, and I don't want us to just go past that because it is so underrated and looked over. Just sitting in silence for some time, like holy shit, like that is so underrated that people just don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of us understand that, and if you've ever drove home or drove to the gym or drove to the store and you pulled in the parking lot or in your garage or on the street and you just sat in the car for like 5-10 minutes and just sat there, you feel what we saying. You know, like, yeah, you know what? That little 5-10 minute just sitting there, nothing, really can help out so much. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a small thing that people can do. And I feel that people feel like things have to be so dramatic and big, right? Like, oh, I have to go do a full spa day for me to be like, no, you can just go sit in silence for 10 minutes and be good. Or if you live by the lake or a beach or something, go walk there or sit there, like just something where you can ground yourself.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah. So you know, I know you've done a lot of coaching. You still do a lot of coaching. And I know for me, it has helped me a lot too, because when you're helping others, you're kind of like secretly helping yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you learned about yourself with, doing coaching and being there for others? Like, so you're being that person for them. You're being that corner man. You're being a person outside the ditch that's giving them that motivation. What has that done for you?
It's made me realize a couple of things. Like, while our situations may be different, we all struggle with the same things, right? We all struggle with confidence, whether that's confidence in our skills, in our mindset, in how we look, in how we present ourselves to other people. We all struggle with the same things. And helping someone else go through what I went through, or helping someone else go through or get out of something that was similar, made me realize how much more I knew to be able to help them than when I realized when I was going through it myself. And if I had been helping those people beforehand, I probably would have known the right things to tell them and could have gotten out of it faster. But when you're in it, you just don't, it doesn't come to mind, right?
Yeah.
It's also shown me that, like, what's projected on the surface is completely different than what's going on internally. You can
Yeah.
project everything as perfect, like we said earlier, curated, everything's hunky dory, everything's going well. But inside, everybody's got something that they're going through. So don't jump to conclusions about people that you don't know, or don't even jump to conclusions about people that you do know, because they may not be comfortable opening up enough to even their closest friends, people not know what's going on.
And I can say I am guilty of that. Like where like I have kept so much just like locked in because that's just
Mm-hmm.
how I've always been. Where it's like, hey, I gotta deal with whatever. But you know, realizing that there's people in my corner and there's people I can just like, okay, let me share this with. Just even just to get it out. It helps so much.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
being
and
that for somebody else is amazing too.
it's huge. And for any of the guys on this call, especially, right? If you grew up anything like me, and I feel like Jesse, you and I had similar raising, right? Um, we're taught like, hey, you're a guy, you're man up. Everything's all right. You don't show weakness. You don't show vulnerability. You fight through. You power through. Bullshit. Okay. Show a little bit of vulnerability. Let people in because they want to help. And all you got to do is ask. But the more bullheaded you want to be, the longer it's going to take for you to get out of the other side of whatever it is you're dealing with.
Yep. And it's funny because I had that same conversation. Shit, damn, this is what 29th, the 29th episode, probably like the fifth episode. I had it with Jamal Gilbert, and we talked about that about growing up growing up as a guy, a male, where it's like you said, hey, shit happened. You're just supposed to keep going. You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have no emotions about things. You're supposed to be the one that always figure it out. Like you just keep going, going, going. And that since with that being instilled in us, that when we do deal with shit, it's just like we just push it down and then we keep moving. But it's only so long you can keep putting stuff in a bucket before the bucket finally overflows or explodes.
Yep.
Right?
And nobody wants to haul that heavy ass bucket up the hill.
Yeah. 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 That's the other part to it. Like that is a lot to carry because what we don't realize is, or we don't think is that those we like, okay, well that been happened, that doesn't. No, it's that wiring, like it's
Mm-hmm.
that programming, like that stuff does dictate, that stuff does play a part in what it is you're doing.
Yep. Oh, and it manifests physically, right? Like when I was going through some stuff, I was exhausted. I was tired. I had no motivation. I gained weight. I was unhealthy. I had aches and pains all over. And it's not because I was out running a marathon or lifting heavy weights. It's because all the stress and all the stuff that I had bottled up had nowhere to go. And it was trying
Yep.
to get out on its own. And I kept trying to keep it in there. So all of that manifests physically if you don't let it out.
And so it goes to, and I'm going to go into six personal perspectives. So for you all who aren't in the KW ecosystem or in the real estate ecosystem, six personal perspectives is a class that we have at KW, and it's all mindset, right? And one of the things that Gary Keller would ask was what differentiated the people that performed at a higher level than anybody else, and it was the three things. It was mindset, approach to life, and attitude. At the top was mindset. If your mindset is together, if your mindset is strong, your attitude and approach to life will be totally different. So pretty
Mm-hmm.
much like you're saying, like if your mindset is not strong and things happen, your approach to life and attitude will be drastically
Mm-hmm.
different. Where attitude, we already know what that looks like. Your approach to life is just going to be like you said, like okay, I'm gonna eat some BS. I'm not gonna work out. I'm gonna soak in my misery. I'm gonna do that. Like it changes the way you approach things. So it's that mindset, like we keep saying, is we have to build that and keep that strong.
Yep. But don't let anybody fall into the trap because you can't mindset yourself to success. You can
Bingo.
mindset will get you about 90 to 95% of the way, but there's still that 5 to 10% that you got to actually do something.
That's what it always comes down to. It's the action. Like I said, that's why motivation, we say motivation is bullshit because motivation lasts for so long, but that
Mm-hmm.
consistency, those habits, those activities that you do on a constant basis, that's where things lie there. And it's that action, like you said, where hey, when I was going through these things, these are the things that I did. So it was those habits, right? It is like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I need to stay consistent to those habits. So staying committed to the activities that help keep pushing through, even when you come out of those times, to say, hey, I need to play offense and not defense. So I'm going to go on the offensive and keep these habits up, stay consistent with it. So when those times come, I'm ready to fight it head on.
Yep. You brought up motivation and how it disappears after time, right? Motivation is external forces, whereas
Mm.
discipline is internal, right? The
Wait
best
a
way
minute.
I
Say
can
that one more
explain
time.
it,
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. So
motivation is external, discipline is internal. The
yep,
best way I can explain it is motivation is all those people on January 1st with their New Year's resolutions, and discipline shows up on January 15th for everybody that actually stays involved.
yep, yep. Even though I think last this year or the year before last, Those motivated people, they made it all the way to February. I was shocked.
Hey, that's
It's,
impressive.
yeah, I was like, okay, maybe the tide has changed. Maybe things are different. And then March came. Yep, like
There you go.
it ain't real.
They fall right off.
But that is a beautiful way to look at it. Motivated is the people January 1st. They're there. The disciplined people that's there way past that. That's constantly
Mhm.
going.
They stick
And
with it.
yeah, that external versus that internal. That's the big thing too. That is big, and I just thought about that. With saying that is that too often people look for external things to get them going.
Mhm.
They look for that external validation. They look for that external, and I've been guilty of that. And I always joked about it, like I always called it that Michael Jordan complex, where I look for the negative in things to push me to
Mhm.
go. And it's like, yes, I was able to accomplish some things, but the feeling behind it wasn't a positive thing
Mhm.
of
Well, and
looking
that
for the negative.
that external validation you brought up is just a band-aid.
Yeah.
That's a fleeting moment in time, right? Someone gave you a thumbs up. Cool. But if you're not reflecting on what's going on in here, this is what you live with 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be with you at the end of life when you're laying on your deathbed. Not that thumbs up that happened once or twice or uh, occasionally throughout life. So it doesn't matter what outside perspective or outside motivation is or where it comes from, because it can't stay with you. But
Yep.
if you build on that determination, if you build on that discipline, that's what you get to carry with you throughout life.
And one thing I always say to that point too is that even with people trying to impress people, like the people you're trying to impress or the people you're trying to prove wrong, these are not even the people that will be there at your funeral giving a eulogy and sharing amazing things about you.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, these aren't even the people where if something happened that they'll even reach out to you to check in on you. So why are we letting what they say or their thoughts or them giving us a thumbs up matter about anything?
100%.
It
And
doesn't matter.
I'll also add to it, if you're sitting waiting for that thumbs up from somebody, you might be waiting for a while because you are severely mistaken if you think somebody thinks about you as much as you think they do.
You know what?
And that's neither good nor bad, right? You might be waiting on some external validation from someone you really respect, and they got their own shit going on. And it's not that they don't want to validate you. They just aren't thinking about it because you're not taking up that much space in their mind. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing.
You know what's funny? That is a thing that a lot of people have, again, this is something I've been guilty of thinking thinking other people were thinking about me, right?
It's that main character syndrome, right?
Yeah, like, oh, this person is saying this, and again, a lot of that. So I will say this: a lot of that could come from past trauma. So
Sure.
not taking it lightly, yet it can come from situations of experiences that people been through. So they carry that along, and they think every situation is going to be like that. Is that situation they experienced that caused them to start thinking that way? So that plays a part in it too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's that thing of where somebody be like, "Oh, I walked into a room and I just think everybody was talking about me and staring at me." Like, unless you walked in with like something on your head or something, I'm pretty sure that's not even the case.
Yeah. Well, and not to diminish anybody's past experiences or anything that's been traumatic for them. And obviously, people have gone through bullying throughout life,
Yeah.
not to diminish anything like that. Right.
Yeah.
And haters are going to hate. You're always going to have people that don't disagree with what you're doing. You're always going to have people that choose to hate on you vocally, loudly. And usually it's because of jealousy. If they're in rooms talking negatively about you, it's probably not about you. It's probably about a deficiency that they have themselves. So let them just be them, and the true colors will come out regardless.
And I talked about this on the last episode of people that are doing things at a high level, people that are chasing their goals, they do not have time. They don't have time to criticize or hate on what the next person is doing
Mm-hmm.
because their eyes are focused on what do they need to do to get to the next level.
Right.
It's only the people that's not doing nothing that has the time to hate and things like that. So that's a big thing to highlight too for people.
100%.
Yeah. So I would say this is probably went faster. Like it felt like we just started,
It
but
did.
it we rocking and rolling. So there's two things that I always ask my guests when we wrap up. The first thing is if there's one piece of advice that you could leave for the listeners, what would that be? And the second question is if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would that be?
Ooh, those are good ones. I'm going to share something that we recently started going back to church in a new church here in the area in Nashville, and there's something that our pastor said this past week at service, and it has to do with don't be the smartest person in the room, right? I don't want to be a know-it-all. I want to be a learn-it-all. So challenge yourself to go out and learn and be a student of life because it's going to only help you in the future. And if you get to a point where you think you're the know-it-all or you're the smartest person in the room and you have to prove that, get yourself into a new room so you can learn from some new people.
Yeah.
The second thing, what I would tell myself if I was younger, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change anything because I am where I am because of every good, bad, or indifferent experience that I've had throughout life, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell myself that whatever I'm dealing with, take some time and realize it's not worth it. Like it's not that big. It's not that impactful. This is just a phase of life.
Yeah.
Just keep on pushing forward. Feel what you got to feel, but don't let it define you.
All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. So again, I want to thank you, my brother, for hopping on and deep diving into some things with me. It was always a pleasure. I love when we get to have our conversation. So it's dope to have it where now we're inviting people in so they can take some gems from it and apply it to what they're doing. All
Hell
right.
yeah. I appreciate you having me, man. This has
Yes,
been fun.
sir. Yes, sir. And as always, thank you all for checking into Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast where we help you tap into your full potential. And I'll see you next week. Peace.